Hi, welcome to Talk About here on Shaw TV North Island. My name is John Twigg. Thanks for tuning in. And we have a business story today, one of the best business stories in Campbell River. The guest is Dennis Cambrey of York Machine. Dennis, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Now, the company has a bit of a history, but you're having an expansion now, which is an amazing story. We'll get to that, but let's start with the history. Where did it get its name?
Ron York. Ron started the shop in 1981, I think it was. A little one-man machine shop, and hired a couple more people. And in 91, he came to me and said, "It's time for you to take over. I want to retire."
Yeah, were you working for him at the time?
No,
or
no, I worked for the competition in town, actually.
Yeah. Right. So a machine shop. I'm a financial editor in the past. I still don't know what that means.
Most people don't. It's amazing how many people don't understand it.
Yeah, tell us.
We make parts.
Okay.
And so people think we do machines in total, and we can do. That's not uncommon. But the majority of our work is to make a part. So I can make a part for your car, or a part for your snowblower, or a part for a Westman mine or a pulp mill. We make parts.
And I know from we chatted before a bit. The big breakthrough was when you had a portable machine that could go out to heavy equipment in, say, a distant logging show, and fix bolts, is it, or?
Bores, basically any worn pin fit on a machine. So any pivot point on a machine is going to wear out over time.
Right.
And the goal is to get it repaired and get the machine back in operation as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So portable machines are much easier. We don't have the downtime. You don't have to send a barge into camp to pick up your loader and haul it to the big city and get it repaired and eventually get it back to work.
Yeah.
The goal was to put our machine and one of our guys in a float plane and fly him into camp and do the job and go home the next day.
Yeah. So imagine the cost of putting, I don't know, a great big machine on a barge, getting it down to tidewater so it can get on the barge, and then dragging it around the island.
Exactly, and the downtime.
So that would be like 2 months, or
I couldn't say for sure, but it could be weeks for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So this was a major innovation, the portable machining.
Yeah, it was a necessity, is what it amounts to. You know, we had a problem. How can you solve it? You know, so everybody sits around, scratches their head, and comes up with a plan.
Well, were businesses in other parts of the world doing this, or was like Campbell River the first?
No, I think Campbell River is probably an excellent place to start because of the logging camps. They're on islands and inlets up the coast. You can't get there by road. Nobody's going to take a low bed and get your machine out. So it becomes more critical now because the downtime is longer.
Yeah.
I couldn't say for the rest of the world. We do have a competitor. There's a company down in Oregon that started making portable machine tools in the 60s, so 20 years before we did. And it could very well be the same situation for them. I'm not sure exactly, but logging is king down the whole west coast sort of thing.
Yeah, right, going all the way up into the Rocky Mountains.
Exactly,
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So originally it was a little shop in Campbellton?
Yep, little four-man machine shop.
Yeah, and now you have a pretty large shop now on 17th. When did that open?
We started that in '99. We started building. There's a couple of reasons. One, we were too tight. We were too crowded in the little shop we had. Yeah. And number two, they were twinning the highway there, and Willow was going to be northbound lanes on the Island Highway. Well, at that point, the city came to me and said, "You might not have your alley anymore. We're not really sure how it's going to work out." And for me, that was panic stations. You know, we need forklifts to bring our stuff into the shop, and all I had was an access off the sidewalk, a little man door on the sidewalk to get our things in. So that between that and the space issues, we were spurred to build a new shop. So we built that in 1999.
So you're kind of forced to expand.
Well, I wouldn't say forced. Yeah, I guess it made us move a little quicker. I guess is what it was. We were going to expand anyway. That wasn't a problem, but you know, you don't have to do it.
Well, I took some photos, and looking inside the shop there, I mean, you know, to the average person walking by, that's pretty big. But it's actually small compared to the new place you're doing in the North Island. North Island Highway. And what's the name of the street?
It's at the corner of Meredith and Viger Road.
Viger, yeah. So what are the sizes?
Well, we've got just under 8,000 square feet where we are right now, and we're going to have 17,000 when we're finished. Yeah.
And interestingly, you're not giving up the place you are now. You're going to use that for what you're doing at 1971
That's right, yeah. And that had a little 4,000 square foot shop, which is where we started when I took over.
Oh, okay.
And so that 4,000 became 8, and 8 is becoming 17. Yeah. And then we'll move the 4,000 into the 8.
Yeah. And let's do the employment numbers.
We have lots of people.
Yeah.
I still know most of their names. I'm not screwing that one up yet, but There's approximately 45 people that work for us altogether.
Well, I was doing research for this, and I think for another reason too, but you know, I came up with, a pretty big business. Actually, it was my column in the Mirror, and I was talking about the diversity of businesses in Campbellton. And, you know, I Googled it, 35 employees. I thought, no, I better check that. So that was about a year ago or two, maybe, where it said 35, and now you're at 45.
There, you know, there's a part-time cleanup guy and stuff like that, so I'm not saying we have 45 full-time jobs,
Right.
but there's 45 paychecks I have to sign, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's in Campbell River, that's a pretty major employer. I mean, Ocean Pacific has probably got lots. Daigle has probably got lots. But, you know, apart from public sector like city and hospital, are there many bigger?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. I honestly don't know. You know, we just kind of evolved into it. I started with my little four-man shop, and it just kind of grew. And it took 25 years to get to this size, you know, that I've been involved with it. And so I don't really notice the difference, sort of thing. You know, it just kind of slid in on me.
When we talked earlier, you mentioned you do the mining as well. But did it start forestry and then add the mining, or?
No, it started as a small town repair shop. So every small town's got a repair shop, and local industry has something broken, they have to get it fixed, you know. So Cambrey River is just a wonderful place to do that kind of work. We had pulp and paper, we had fishing, which is morphed into fish farms now. All the trucking that goes with the heavy industry around, the logging, mining. We've got a phenomenal variety, and which is really good for a guy like me, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You know, if all we have was a pulp mill here and that's all I can work on, the price of paper goes down.
Well, the mine just closed for a while. For example, the pulp mill is gone for a while, but you're still growing.
Yeah, well, I've learned over the years you have to, like I say, if we depended on one industry, we'd be in big trouble. So we started off with a varied customer base, which is a good thing. 08 was probably the toughest for us, when everything was quiet then. And I went south of the border. And so we do a lot of aircraft work now for companies in Seattle and Everett, Washington. And that's growing. And one of the reasons we're going to expand is because there's way more work there that I can get that I just can't do now. We just physically can't produce it. And so what happens is Near Star goes down for hopefully not very much longer, but right now they're down. We're not getting any work from them.
Well, commodity prices.
Exactly it. But what happens is the quotes that I'm passing up from the aircraft people, I'll start to put these quotes in and we'll win our share of those jobs, so nobody's losing their job at this stage yet. There's other things to do. If you can keep your fingers on different, in different pies, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
This is a good spot to show the map that I took a photo of in your office, if we can arrange it. And it's got pins in all of the places where you've made a sale. All right, and so we were looking at it, and I said, wow, you got sales all the way down to Chile, and you said?
Down to South America, or Antarctica. Yeah, exactly. South America? Yeah, Antarctica.
Antarctica.
Yep.
So what did you sell in Antarctica?
We sold a line boring machine, but the same thing, obviously remote location, and it's the U.S. Scientific Research Station down there has some equipment. I don't even know what the equipment is, but they called us and said, we have to repair these bores in this machine. Can you help us?
How did they find you?
On the internet, I guess, I'm assuming. Yeah. We advertise in a lot of magazines, although the magazine ads are becoming more digital than paper now, but internet's big for us.
I'm trying to keep an order in my mind here of all of the things to hit on. But first you started with automated boring.
Yep. It's portable line boring, that's what we're doing. It's very, it wasn't really automated, it was very basic.
Okay.
And grown from
automated, computerized, I'm not sure.
No, not even in those days. The original machines were just a lever. You know, you turn this forward, turn it that way, it's backwards, sort of thing.
Well, where did the automated come in?
That's just kind of evolved over time as well. From the line boring machines, the first machines were, like I say, mechanical.
People stands there and does
That's right. Yeah, he operates the switch and push a button to make it do what you want to do. Customers asked us for remote control. They had longer jobs. The machine is sitting on one end of a project, and if you're having to work 8 or 10 feet away, if you want to change your speed or feed, you had to walk back to the machine and touch it. So they were bugging us for remote controls. And so now we had to get away from our manual clutches and things and actually get into electronic to make it remote. So that started it. Boeing then came along and they approached me and said, we want to replace the machines we're using to bore out our landing gear fittings on the 777s.
Wow.
And I go, like, pardon me? And you came to Cambrey River for this. And he found us on the internet, and it took us probably 2 years, I guess. He took one of our stock machines at first and said, okay, this is very good, but we need to move on from this. And we've now got CAN cycles we put in it. So the operators will tell it, I want to do a boring cycle, and it goes back and forth.
Yeah. You recently showed me the export award you won from the Campbell River Chamber of Commerce, I think it was. Yeah. Was that for a boring machine?
No, I think that's just for export in general.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's any specific thing. It was just.
Okay. Well, where I'm trying to go here is you started with boring machines and you've now added welding?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, the welding is part and parcel of it. Typically, if you've got a hole that's worn oversize, it's all worn out, you have to apply more metal. You have to get more metal in there to bring it back down to the right size. So you're going to weld the hole up. So you weld the hole up, and then it's all lumpy, so now you want to bore it out to make it nice and smooth again, and you've now done the repair. Well, in the old days, we'd weld by hand. But we need to move past that, and so now we've automated that. And so we have automated bore welders. I have 3 different models of bore welders that we have. And they basically, they position the torch, it welds around 360, steps up, and welds around 360 and steps up, and welds around 360 and steps up, and it just works its well for
and it'll do that for a string of 20 of them?
As many as you want to do.
So it still requires supervision, but I guess less labor.
Yeah, less labor, and it's even safer. If you imagine a welder sitting over something, his face is over the hole, all the smoke is coming up. Welding smoke is not good for anybody. So now the workers' comp people want you to do all kinds of respirator type things, and there's a bunch of things that have to be done for that. Well, we've taken that. The problem is still there to an extent, but basically a guy can stand 3 feet away from the job. And he's got a remote control, and he tells it what to do. So the smoke is going up away from his face, so it's easier on him. He's not getting having to take breaks so often, so the machines are running more often. And they do a better job as well. Hand welding is good, especially with a skilled tradesman, but the machine makes a beautiful finish. It makes it much easier for the guy coming in to bore it out later on, so his job goes faster as well.
Now there's a story about a trade show. You weren't there perhaps, but your staff were there. Was it Chicago?
Chicago just last week, 2 weeks ago.
And when I visited you, your desk was covered in pink telephone messages from. Tell us about that.
But don't leave town. People still phone. Well, that's always. We did a show. I do quite a few shows. Most of our customers will maybe find us on the internet, find us in a magazine ad, but nobody wants to spend $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 based on a picture they saw in a magazine. So they want to see it and feel it and touch it. And so we do trade shows all over the world. This year I've been to China, Colombia, Johannesburg, South Africa, and then last month or 2 weeks ago in Chicago. So it was a welding show, and they featured the welding machines, and so we took 3 models of our machine there and put them on display.
Well, this is a prototype machine, is it not?
This one here is our newest machine, yes. This is the first time anybody had ever seen it other than our own people. So we opened it to the world, I guess, in Chicago. And it's the next step up. Traditionally, all our equipment we've built has been repair tools. So we're repairing somebody's broken down bulldozer or whatever it might be. This is now, it's designed for small production runs. So if a small factory is making 20 widgets or 30 widgets a week or a month or something like that, they couldn't justify spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on the sexy robots you can buy. And so I thought I would dumb one down and make kind of an entry-level small run robot. And that's what we did. And I built it for me. Personally, I needed one of these things, and I can't afford this $200,000 fancy robot because I'm not making 5,000 parts at a time like the big factories would be. I couldn't find one, so I thought, well, let's build one and see what happens. So that's
What's your own background? I saw on the wall there you have a machining degree of some kind.
Yeah, I served an apprenticeship. I started my apprenticeship in 1974.
Whereabouts?
In North Vancouver, actually. Finished it off here in the island. I left the big city, it was too big for me, so I moved back to Duncan and finished it off there.
Where did you grow up?
In Victoria, born in Victoria, went to high school down there.
And then you got to North Van, or was it BCIT or something? Or?
No, I went over, again, you're 18, 19 years old, and you got to go to the big city and seek your fortune, I guess is what they say, right? So I went over there for a couple of years, and I found an apprenticeship and started it, and I worked there for 2 years, and decided I didn't like the traffic. It was too big. It was nice for an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid. You can see the world and go to night and do all kinds of things, but I decided that wasn't for me. So I came back and finished my apprenticeship off in Duncan. And I worked there for 6 or 7 more years, and then transferred up to Campbell River Division. I actually was the shop superintendent here in Campbell River for the same company.
Which was the?
It was Promac Industries.
Oh.
Yep.
And so they're still in town, aren't they?
Not in town, no. They left town in '93. Promac shut down. It reinvented itself 4 days later, and they're in Duncan now. They're focused in Duncan. They had, in the old days when I was there, they had a Duncan branch, a Campbell River branch, and a Port Alberni branch. And so I looked after the Campbell River branch and then left before they went down. And now they're back in business in Duncan.
Well, that's another whole area I'd like to get into, and that's like the business climate in Campbell River. And you've been here long enough to see it go around and stuff like that. And, you know, the price of land, I guess, or the supply of labor. What are you thinking of the business climate? Maybe some advice for people.
Advice? I'm the wrong guy for advice.
Okay. Well,
I learned the hard way. But anyway.
Well, what have you learned?
Okay, I've learned lots of things. Labor, I've learned that hire young kids that have roots in the community. I went to high school here. Hopefully they're going to marry their high school sweetheart. And if I can give them an apprenticeship and train them on what we want to do, they'll stay here. They like it here. This is home for them. You know, years ago, I remember I advertised in the Vancouver Sun one time. And I advertised all across the country trying to find machinists. And I had a guy move here from Vancouver, and he and his wife had just split up, and he's going to start a new life in Campbell River. And he was going to be a machinist. And he worked for me for about 2 months, I'd say. And he came to me one day and he says, you know, you can't buy a pizza here in Campbell River after 10 o'clock. And I said, who cares? And I should have said, I'll make you a pizza. Because what happened was about a week later, he says, I'm going back to Vancouver. I can't live here anymore. And so the best thing I learned from that was you don't try to import somebody and make that square peg fit our round hole over here. I've got some excellent guys that have come from back east. They come out here on vacation. I had one young guy one time came from Ontario. He was here for a couple of weeks on the island. And he just knocked on the door and said, I'm on vacation, but I don't ever want to go home. You know, what do you have for me here? And I hired him, and he's one of my top guys. But the majority of my crew, they start as 16, 17-year-olds sweeping the floor on the weekend. And we get a feel for what they can do. Attitude is the big thing for me. I can train the trade, that's not a problem, but I can't train the attitude.
What about North Island College as a training place? I know that's an issue in a number of industries, kind of like the lack of positions.
Well, I'm going to go against the tide a little bit here. I would just as soon hire a guy that doesn't have any training. And I don't mean no training at all. But realistically, that's what an apprenticeship is. An apprenticeship is come here. You're going to work for me for 10 and a half months, and you're going to go to school for 5 or 6 weeks, and you're going to learn the theory side of it, but I can train you what I need to do. So the problem I find nowadays is that you know, all these companies are saying, you know, the government's got to do more and spend more money to train these people. But they train them on how to do a welding process that they may never do in real life. Or I may have a different way of doing it. And so guys come out and here's how we do this. And I say, well, that's how you do it. This is how we do it here, you know. And so I'm not so much interested in the specific skills applications. We do we do occasionally, we take high school groups, and sometimes I'll take a group of kids through the shop. Sometimes I'll have one kid come work for us for a couple of weeks. And I always scare them at the end. The high school counselor's with them, and they'll look at me and say, okay, what does this kid need to do to work in a place like this? And I tell them he needs English and math. And they all go, ooh, you know, that's the thing I was trying to get rid of. I wanted to get into the trades, you know. And I said, well, no, you need math because you have to figure out angles and things like that. There's stuff to do in the trade.
Pretty fine, too, some of these measurements.
Oh, yeah, we're worked to half a thousandths is not a problem. You know, that's half the thickness of a hair in your head, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, so, again, we can train that. That's not a problem to train.
How about the supply?
It's a test, but it works out pretty good. Campbell River is probably the best place on the island for industrial supplies. And when I first came here, I thought, oh my God, what am I getting into? You know, if I need a bearing, where am I going to get one from? Or I need a piece of steel, where? But Campbell River supplies everything from, I would say, Parksville to the Queen Charlotte Islands. And so we have a amazing inventory of supplies, from hydraulic stuff, mechanical stuff. All that stuff is here because people up in Was or in Bella Coola, they're going to order it from here and it's going to head up there, you know. So we've got a very good stock here. So it's a pleasant surprise from that regard.
What's the price premium from getting it locally as opposed to getting it shipped in from Vancouver? Because probably Vancouver has all of these services.
Yes, exactly it.
Or is it the speed more than the price?
Speed is a big thing in price too. It's 6 of one, half does the other. If the guy's broken down, he needs the thing fixed tonight. So he doesn't care what it costs because I'm going to save, you know, I'm not going to worry about saving $100 and taking 2 days longer to get the job done.
A camp of 20 guys
That's right.
sitting there eating sandwiches.
Twiddling their thumbs. Exactly. It's not going to work. I got a lot of suppliers here that stock stuff for us, and we probably pay an extra few cents a pound for have them inventory it. But it's going to cost me 20 or 30 cents a pound to bring it in myself. So because they're going to consolidate a freight run to bring in a whole load of stuff to get one truck in and fill their shelves. I bring in the piece I needed overnight, you know, and so that's going to cost me a premium.
How important is relationship building? You know, like you get a regular customer, they know you, you know them.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's easier in a small town, I think, too. But that's really important.
Yeah.
I have a lot of customers, or new customers, will come to me and say, you know, please make 20 widgets, please. How much will they be? And I'll give the guy a price, and I'll give him the best price I can. But after he comes back a couple of times, I'll say, maybe you don't want to ask me for a quote.
Yeah.
And you know, like, what? No. He's afraid that I'm going to get him or something, you know.
Yeah.
And I say, well, what happens if I quote it? If you bring me a widget, and I think that's going to take maybe an hour and a half to make, hour and 3/4, I'm going to bid 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because I want to cover my butt here. I don't want to lose money on this thing.
Yeah.
I said, if you just bring it to me, if it takes an hour and a half, I charge you an hour and a half. You're happy, I'm happy, everybody wins, you know. And so that's that relationship.
Yeah.
So we have to build the trust with the customer to develop that.
Yeah.
And it works really well for me.
Yeah.
Repeat business is what makes it work for us.
Interesting. Going around the end and coming back in the back door a bit, Andrew Nikiforuk is a journalist of some renown, and he was here as the Haig Brown author in residence for a while. Mm-hmm. He liked the place so much he has now moved back.
Oh, yeah.
And folks watching, I'm hoping to have him on this show soon too. He's got a new book out. But that's getting at the idea of, you know, Campbell River's appeal to people. Mm-hmm. Tell us a bit about that. I mean, like this kid that was visiting, and he said he wanted to. Hey, you got a job?
Pizza.
I want to stay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, he came and he was he's an outdoors guy. You know, so canoeing and all that sort of stuff, and he just fell in love with the place.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't leave either. I pay a premium here. Like you say, we got to bring in this material to do our jobs, and I also have to ship it out. Yeah. Everything I sell as far as the portable machine tools is all FOB Vancouver, Seattle, and it's because people don't want to know about an island. You know, it's just too inconvenient for them. It's amazing the number of calls I get at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and say, can you ship it overnight? And I say, everybody's left town. You know, it's too late. It'll go tomorrow morning. and that's what it is. I could make more money in the lower mainland, or I could probably make even more money if I was in Memphis, Tennessee, just from logistics point of view. Yeah. But from a lifestyle, I'm here till I die. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, what should be done that isn't being done for the business climate in the city? And maybe it's tourism or something, I don't know, but from your perspective, you know, what rankles you? What would you fix if you could?
Yeah, you take me by surprise here. Things go pretty smoothly, really, to tell you the truth. We're having some issues with the new shop, obviously, and it's always little issues between me and the building code and the city planners and stuff like that, but we'll iron it all out, and we'll all live happily ever after in the end.
Well, that new site sounds like you did pretty well in terms of, you know, you kept that big maple tree.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think I would be surprised if the city is trying to make your life difficult, but on the other hand, there's bureaucrats in there.
Exactly, yeah. Difficulty is a relative thing, you know. Today it's difficult, next year I'll be fine with it. You know, that's how it really amounts to. Yeah, there's lots of little teeny details like that will get sorted out eventually, but I don't think it's not a policy thing. There's no policy saying we want to put down a sign.
We're just about out of time, but I want to get this one in too. The export assistance from the federal government or from the province as well. I mean, you have an amazing export array of markets. Any thoughts about how it works well or could be done better?
Yeah, they got to make it user-friendly. Now, I haven't used the federal government stuff for a long time, but years ago I tried it once, and I remember they sent me this stack of papers, and here, you fill out all these forms and you do all this stuff, and we'll help you do this trade show in wherever it was going to be. And I looked at it all and I thought, well, this is 6 hours work. Like, I don't have time for this. And I just threw it away. It was easier for me just to spend the money and go myself than it was to deal with this. And I remember they phoned me back and they said, well, where's the application at? I said, oh, I threw it away. And they were heartbroken, like, what? And I said, well, your job should be to make my life easier, not more difficult. And I understand they have to dot I's and cross T's to make sure I'm not going to Vegas to gamble or something like that. But still, it's user-friendly is a problem.
Versus red tape.
Yeah.
Okay, Dennis Cambrey, you've been a great guest. Thank you very much. Is there something I didn't ask that you wanted to say?
No. I'm happy.
Good. Well, Godspeed in your business. It's
Thanks,
a really good asset to Campbell River, and thanks for taking the time with us here.
My pleasure.
Good. Well, there's talk about folks here on Shaw TV North Island. We do have a YouTube posting. If you go to Shaw TV North Island website, you'll find links there to this show and other previous shows too. So tell a friend. Thank you, Chaz and Gord, for doing this show, and we'll be back soon here on Shaw TV.